These 8 useful English words will boost your everyday fluency and your IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge score. And you won't just memorize them. You'll meet each one inside the story, feel what it means, then prove you caught it. That's how your brain keeps them for good. Every afternoon that week, the moment Ivy turned her back, the little shelf by the window rearranged itself. Nothing stolen, nothing damaged, just the books shuffled into a strange new order. She was sure the old shop had a ghost. She was about to discover something far stranger and far sweeter than any ghost. Ivy worked at Page's Books, a small, dusty secondhand shop on a quiet street. Most days were slow. A handful of regulars came to browse the crowded shelves, and one or two would settle into the worn armchair in the reading nook at the back and stay for hours. Ivy loved it there. She loved the smell of old paper, the soft afternoon light, and the little nook where the lonely and the dreamy came to browse and to hide. But that week, something peculiar had begun. Each afternoon, while Ivy was busy at the till or fetching a book from the back, the small display shelf by the window would change. The neat row she had set up would become a new jumble of different titles, all turned to face out. It was the most peculiar thing. Who would bother to jumble up a shelf of cheap paperbacks and then slip away without a single word? It baffled her completely. She checked the door. The little bell always rang when it opened, yet somehow she never heard it at the right moment. She asked old Mr. Page, who only chuckled and said the shop had always had its moods. For days, the mystery baffled Ivy, until she had begun to dread turning her back on that shelf at all. Then, one gray Thursday, she finally looked at the shelf properly, not at the mess of it, but at the titles themselves, left to right, in the careful order in which someone had placed them. And her heart gave a small, surprised jump. The books were not a random jumble at all, read in a row. Their titles made words. She stood very still and read the shelf like a sentence. It was shy and clumsy and clear as daylight. Someone had been leaving her messages, cryptic little notes spelled out in the spines of the books. Each afternoon, the message had changed and grown, one cryptic line at a time, and she had been far too busy to ever see it. Whoever it was had been quietly wooing her for a week in the only language a shy person trusts, the titles of books. Ivy felt her face grow warm. She thought of all the regulars who drifted through the shop, and one face floated up at once. A young man who came every single afternoon, sat in the reading nook, and never quite managed to say more than, "Hello." He had been wooing her in plain sight, and she had thought it was a ghost. The next afternoon, Ivy did not go to the back room. She pretended to read behind the till, and she watched the window shelf in the dark reflection of the glass. And there he was. The young man rose quietly from the nook, glanced around, and with quick, nervous hands began to move the books, adding, at the very end of his sentence, one last paperback. His name, she would soon learn, was Felix, and when he turned and saw her watching him, frozen with a book still in his hand, he went the deep red of someone who wishes the floor would open and swallow him whole. He had been caught. The shyest, sweetest secret in the whole shop was finally out. Ivy crossed the shop, her own heart thumping now, and read the sentence he had just finished, a clumsy, perfect line of book spines that asked simply whether she might like to have coffee with him sometime. This gentle, smitten young man had been asking her out for a week, one title at a time, too shy to say a single word aloud. Ivy did not say a word either. She reached past his shaking hand and found a slim green book with one word on its spine, yes. She said it carefully at the end of his sentence. She realized with a start, quite smitten herself. They had their coffee that Saturday and 100 Saturdays after it. Felix never did get much braver at speaking aloud, but he never really needed to, because the two of them learned to say the important things the way they had begun, in the cryptic, crowded, wonderful language of the shelves. Ivy had come to work that week certain the old shop was haunted. It was. It was haunted by the shyest, kindest ghost she would ever meet. She married him 3 years later. In a bookshop, of course. Now, and did you catch all 8? Let's find out. A verb meaning to look slowly and casually through things, with no rush. It's what you do in a shop when you're just looking, not really buying. Regulars came into the bookshop to do this along the crowded shelves. She loved to watch the customers do what? Look slowly through the dusty rows of old books. The word is browse. We spent a lazy hour browsing the little weekend market stalls. A noun for a messy, disordered mixture of things all mixed up. Think of a drawer crammed with tangled cables, keys, and old coins. Each afternoon, the neat shelf became a new one of these. The books were left in a what, all turned the wrong way out. The word is jumble. Her desk was a hopeless jumble of papers, pens, and old mugs. A noun for a small, cozy, sheltered corner of a room. Think of a window seat with a cushion, perfect for hiding with a book. Shy regulars settled into the reading one of these at the back of the shop. He always sat in the quiet reading, what at the back? Never saying much. The word is nook. She curled up in a cozy nook by the fire with her book. A verb meaning to confuse someone completely, leaving them stumped. It's what a riddle with no answer does to your tired, aching brain. The shelf that changed by itself did this to Ivy for days on end. The strange little mystery would do what? Confuse her completely? Every afternoon? The word is baffle. The sudden disappearance of the keys continued to baffle the family. An adjective meaning strange, odd, and out of the ordinary. Think of milk that looks fine but tastes oddly, weirdly wrong. The shelf rearranging itself was the most this thing Ivy had ever seen. It was a what kind of habit? Who would muddle a shelf and then slip away? The word is peculiar. There was a peculiar smell coming from the back of the old fridge. A verb meaning to court someone and try to win their love. It's what a hopeful suitor does with flowers, songs, and sweet words. Felix did this to Ivy for a week, using only the titles of books. He had been trying to do what? Win her heart, shyly, one book spine at a time. The word is woo. He tried to woo her with poems and long walks by the river. An adjective meaning mysterious and puzzling with a hidden meaning. Think of a secret note written in a code you cannot quite crack. The messages spelled out in the book spines were shy and exactly this. His what kind of little notes, hidden in the titles, slowly grew into a question. The word is cryptic. He left a cryptic message that no one could understand at first. An adjective meaning suddenly and helplessly in love or charmed. Think of someone who goes dreamy and red the moment a name is said. By the end, both Felix and Ivy were completely this with each other. This gentle, what kind of young man had been asking her out for a whole week? The word is smitten. He was utterly smitten with her from the very first day they met. Quick recap. How many do you still remember? Browse. Jumble. Nook. Baffle. Peculiar. Woo. Cryptic. Smitten. A new English story every day. Subscribe and learn useful words the way your brain actually keeps them. Inside a story you won't forget.